I believe everyone can see my screen. Let me put on. Yeah. Okay. So today we are going to be working on developing APIs, right? How do we develop API in Laravel? API is called application programming interface, right? And you build that to enable communication between systems. You have a system somewhere that is hosting your front end, or maybe another system entirely that requires to make a call to another resource, another system. Then you can do that through what we call API, application programming interface, not user interface. User interface is what you interact with as a user, right? The application programming interface is what another application interacts with to get resources. All right. So we will be talking about how to be building that this afternoon. And the one we are focusing on, there are different types of API, right? But the one we are focusing on is RESTful API. So right now, let me ignore this and open my application. You can create a new one, or you open the existing one that you've been using before. So for me, I'm just going to open this that we have been using before. And that will open by pressing code space dot. That will open the project in VS Code for me. So here, let me close all of this to avoid any confusion. So I'm trying to close all the windows so that, yeah. Now we already understand the discussed about Laravel application structure or file structure in previous lectures. So today we will be looking at, since we'll be looking at API, I will just go to routes, right? And instead of web.php, I'm going to use API.php. So that is expected to be here, but for some reasons it's not here. But that's not an issue. I would just create it. Okay, let me look at this. Okay, so the reason that is not here will be that because we installed Breeze the last time, so that must have overwritten some of those structures and taken away the ones that we don't need. But we just hope that once we add it back, it should work. If I add it back now and it's not working, then I might need to create a new application so that I don't take you through the complicated process of having to include that in the provider and all that. But let me see if all is fine by just adding it. So I want to test a route from here to see if everything is okay. So I don't know where I just need to get request, and that get request should be just let me call it test, and then I want to return hello world. So I'm going to test this and see if it works. What I will do is let me go to app providers. Okay. I think at this point I might need to create, because no, it doesn't seem like there's no route provider here. So I might quickly need to create new station. Let me see if I have one here that I can use. I don't think so. So let me just make things faster. I'll just use 10 for now. And then I will use this command right here to create a new one, a new project. By doing so, I'll first go back one level and then paste this right here. Put this, call it tutorial thing. I created. So I'm setting up a new project now afresh so that we don't tamper with what we have. We have Breeze installed on that, and that's tampered with the default configuration. Okay, because Breeze creates the front end for you and give you some boilerplate code to work with without writing much code yourself. So it has removed some files that are not in use. Okay, so we don't want to tamper with that. That's why I'm creating a new one. So let me just cd area and then I can say code, so that this will open it in VS Code. So now we have a new project, and then I just bring this down. Right. Now, if I come here, can you see that by default we have API right here. So we are trying to build a RESTful API. And when I say RESTful, it's a kind of API. Just simply put, it's a type of API that uses HTTP web methods to use HTTP methods, which means it sends the request over HTTP calls, right? And then you receive it and return the same HTTP response. Okay, so no other way when it comes to RESTful API. It works with the verbs get, post, update, delete. These are things that we discussed before. You are a little bit familiar with them. So if you are not, you probably want to look at the previous videos. Okay, now that we have this here, what we are going to do is set up a test route to test our. So we create a route. I believe you know how to create routes. So let's just create a simple get route and call it test. Just to see, and then we say function, create an anonymous function, and come here to return the response. Probably this time just say hello world, or let's say app is healthy. App is healthy, kind of thing. So now if I make a call request, let's say I attempt to make a call request right here, and I say call get HTTP. But before I do that, I might need to start the application. So if I open a different tab now and I just say PHP and serve, right? So this has saved it for me. I can make a request from here by just saying call get this/test. So the idea is if I do this, I expect to get this response. If I get this response, then it means our API is working. But then if I don't get it, let me first send it. Yeah, cannot resolve. So let's check. Let's check in here and check our route service provider and look at. So this is supposed to be a prefix. That's what it means. You can see that they have a prefix here, which is API. Okay, and it's routing to that. It's linked to that part. This route part here. So this is where they do the routing, and that was why when I checked the other application, I noticed that that route service provider was not there. You know, I didn't want to start doing all of that. So what that means is we need to prefix our URL with API for it to be able to map the request and send it into the API file right here. Okay, so if I do this, yeah, can you see that it's working? It's LT. Please, can anyone hear me? Can you signify if you can hear me, please? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Okay. Can everybody hear me or anyone? Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. So let me go to Postman now and test this on Postman just so that we can have an idea of how we do that on Postman as well. So this is the URL I want to test. If I go to Postman, this is Postman. If you don't have Postman, you might need to download it. Once you, it's a free, it has a free package that you can always use. Okay. So if I come here and then I say, let me just create a, let's use an existing one somewhere here. I say, yeah, I paste it here, and the method I'm using here is get. If I just send it, what I expect is to get a 200 response. This is 200 response, and then what is being returned should be app is healthy. Can you see? App is healthy. So now that we have tested our API route is working, so it means if you want to, when you want to create an API, right, what you need to do is come to your route and locate the API.php file, then put all your routes in there, as against what you've been doing before, which is creating your route file, your routes inside the web. So if you are using the web, it means you will have to use views. You know, it means you want to have your HTML, your front end within the Laravel application, and at the same time do your perform your logic, that MVC that we discussed about. Okay, so we are using MVC using model view controller. That's, you can use web in that case because view is involved. But you are building an API, which is a resource that allows interaction to other systems. Okay, so to give you more context, you have your front end. You know what front end applications are built in. They are built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so you can have JavaScript frameworks, you can have whatever you want to use to as a for your CSS. Yeah. So what they do that is separate server, for example, which we'll practicalize quickly right now. And then you want to make a call from that application or from that server to they want to make calls to your own API, the APIs that you build. That is how you see most of these applications work. They have their front end being managed separately. They have the back end being managed separately. And so when the front end guys build their UI, then they request for the APIs to consume and make the whole application work together. So your own responsibility as a backend person is to be able to build an API. and in this case, a RESTful API, right? So we have been able to test our routes. Let's create a simple, just outside of this project, let's create a simple application. I mean, a simple HTML code to, let's just a very simple one. Let me see if we can just do it inside this place. I'll just go back one level inside a different folder. This is a different folder. This is the application that we are in. So let me open this also in. So right here, I'm going to create a folder and call it front end. Yeah. Okay, so we now have two folders. So let me remove one. Now, in this folder, I'm going to create a file and call it index. So this will seem like a front-end person who is creating their own application inside on their system or on their server or wherever. Okay, so they have their file here, and the file, let's say HTML5, just to give us. Okay, so we have this, and then let's call it our tech-even hack. Say tech-even hack. Okay, this is their, and then inside there, they want to be able to I think it's fetch. That's correct. They want to be able to make a request to a resource, right? And then let me just quickly find. I don't waste time on that. I just want us to create something simple, so we'll see how that will work. So we'll see. I just want to get a skeletal HTML that we can use, that will see how the front end will be or will look, right? And then so I come here now, and then I do this. So we have this. Let's say we are changing this to example, and then so you can see there is a function right here that calls an endpoint. So in this case, our what is going to be called will be this one. Okay.
Sorry, boss. We're not seeing what you're doing. Your screen is frozen.
My screen. Can any other person see my screen? Just to be sure that it's not just you. Can someone see my screen? Who just spoke now, please? Who just spoke now? Faith. Okay. So was it you that just spoke now, Faith?
No, it's Tosin.
Tosin. Okay, so Faith could see my screen. So I guess it might probably be your network, but let me stop sharing and share again so that if that will help. Tosin, can you see my screen now? Hello, Tosin, can you see my screen now? If not, then you might probably need to check your network connection. Okay, so this is a skeletal front end that will make calls to our API. Okay, so let's say we want to make calls to our API now. What this will do, this fetch will do is it will try to call the API. Okay, then what it will do is get the response, right? This is a denable fetch, so it's going to be asynchronous. So it will fetch it and then get the response right here. The ID, where's this get by ID? So comment, yeah, this is it. So this is where it's going to display it. Okay, so it will display whatever it fetches. It will display it here. To display it here. Okay. Am I showing? Yeah, it will display it here. So when we click on this button, this will call this function, and then whatever response that comes from that API call will be displayed here. Okay. So now what we are going to do is call. Let's launch this. Let's see. So if I use go live, if you don't have go live, you might probably just add it to your extension. So if I say go live, it will open the browser for me. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask. Just so that you will get this. I really need you to get this part. It is quite important. You as a backend should be able to build APIs. Okay. I don't think there's any backend person that will not know how to build APIs. This is a very important part of you. So can you see the skeletal structure of our HTML? This is a button. So there is an element here. It's saying click the button to load data. So if I click on fetch data, it will call that endpoint, which I've set up in Laravel right here. Okay, and the server is running. Can you see that the server is running? Okay, so for you to know that the server is running, if you come here and you post it here, this is, and I say API/test, because if it gets request, so it will work. Can you see app is healthy? Is here. So it means if I click on, ideally, if I click on this fetch data, it should display app is healthy. Yeah, all things being equal. But it's not displaying it. Let me see if I can use Chrome. Yeah, so let me inspect and see whether my request is being sent at all or not. Please pay attention to what I'm doing. These are things you need to know to be able to debug if your endpoint is being called or not. API endpoint, the URL is what you call endpoint, the route that you set up. I set up a route called test there. Okay, so I want to check if my route is being called at all. So I will inspect on Chrome, and then I will go to network. And you see, there are different ones here, but I went to network. So instead of all, that will show me a lot of other stuff that I don't need, including the static files and all. I'll just click on fetch XHR, right? And so what that means is if I click on fetch, it should send. Can you see it's sending that request, but something is happening, it's reloading. So when it reloads, then we have an issue. So it means it's an issue with our HTML. So let's check. What we can do here is when data comes, then it is trying to submit it. I think that is the issue. It is trying to submit it. So let's say type. That's probably because we didn't specify this as a button. It's probably saying it as a submit type. So if I come here and then I reload again, let me reload this page, it's reloading, and I click on fetch. So I think it's still reloading. So when the data comes, it reloads, so it's not going to see. So that we might need to prevent. We might need to prevent. Okay. Calls. So let's use something else. Let's use a I don't want to start writing JavaScript here. If we use A and then we change this to A and give this href, and then we'll put JavaScript void 0 in here to prevent default. So when we do that, and then it's expected to call this function. When it calls this function and the function is returned, then it updates what we have here. That is the idea. Stringify inner text. Yes, that's what it's supposed to do. So let's see what happens by the time we come here and then we reload. Yes, even without reloading, we already see that it has changed. So if I do this now, okay, it's still doing that, or even though I can see that it's calling that endpoint. Okay, maybe what we'll just do is not to waste time. We will just let's console log it, our response, so that we can see console.log. Let's console log it. So console log in our data and say API response data. So this is actually supposed to be the work of the front end guys, but I want us to have first-hand experience of how it works in real life so that we know what we are expecting. That's why I'm doing this. So it means when we click on this and then it runs, then it sends that data. And yeah. So if we go to console now, and then I do this, okay, I think we might just, so that we don't waste all our time on HTML. We can come back to it at time we still have more time, since we have our postman there. So let's leave this part for now. At least we've been able to confirm that using call here, that is your major part, your major work. We should be able to use call to make a simple request, or use postman to test your endpoint. Okay, all that part that I was doing is not supposed to be your job as a backend person. So let's go back there to do more of our. So what I will do is let me get. While that is loading. So we are going to create some CRUD. When I say CRUD, you already know CRUD. CRUD resource for us to see how that works. So we'll say route. So we want to get, let's say, get users. We're going to say user. We want to get users. So we're going to create a user controller. And to do that, I believe that we are aware of how we can do that now. So we use our artisan command. So we'll come here, let me clear this off. And then let's do PHP. That is make controller, right? Call it user controller, okay? Call it user controller. And so we press enter. So that has created that for us. And we come here, where do we get it? Here. And so you should see. So by default, when you create a new Laravel application, you should have a user model there. Okay. So what we'll do next is pass our user controller here. User controller, right? And that has been imported. Class. Do we have any class in it yet? No, we can't, because we just created it. So let's just say we want to have function index. So usually we use index to get resources. And what are the resources? What is the resource we want to get now? The users, right? So because we want to get users, we are going to use index method. Okay, so we can come into that, and then what do? We'll say, let's say user, right, is equal to, then you call your model. Remember how you do this. And in this case, you want to say all. So you are getting all the users in your database, right? You are using this model to get all the users in the database. So why is this underlined? Because we have not imported that model. So you want to do control plus space, which will give you this option. Then you can select either you type it or you do that shortcut just to give you what you need. Then you return the response. Okay, I'm going to return a JSON response. So return a JSON response. You can say JSON. That's going to be a function, and then let's return response. We're going to say response, and then we'll pass our content, whatever content we want to pass right here, and then we'll pass our let's say we want to say successful, right? And then of course it's going to be 200. So if you don't pass that, it's still going to work. But because you have some data that you want to pass to them, so you include your user here. Okay, so it's either you structure it in a way that is reusable, or you just do it directly like this. So because this takes an array, so we are going to pass array. We're going to pass an array. So we'll say an array. So this is the way you send your response. This can also be on one line. I just have to do it like this to make it easy for you. So whichever one works, it will make sense. Okay. I have to show you that it's not, if that is confusing. And you see, so this is the first argument, second argument, which is your status code. Then is the third argument, which is an array of the data or the resource that they're requesting for. So you say users, let's say users, not user. So right here, just so that it is easy for us to maintain, you should use the right word that will make any other person that's looking at the code get what you have done. So right here now, we expect that it will return a response. But let's check our database. Have we connected any database in our env? Okay, we have not even set up env yet. So we want to check our env file. So we have MySQL, we have this, we have this, we have Laravel, we have route. Okay, so let's see. Let me now put on my database because I want to use XAMPP. I'm going to open manager. I'm on Mac, so you open XAMPP from Windows. If you are using Windows, if you have any challenge, please pick up. You should get this at least if you don't get any other thing. So please get building API, how to build API. Get it clear. So it's coming up. What I want to do right now is make sure that whatever name I'm passing here as name on database exists on the actual database. You know, this is my application. There's the database. There needs to be a connection, and these are the connection credentials. Okay, we are aware of that already. So while we wait for that to come up, let's see if we are going to get anything here. Don't forget, we have not yet migrated our database. So let's first start the server. Since it's up now, so we start the MySQL database. We start the Apache database. Let them start. The Apache web server rather, not database. The database is MySQL. Once we've started, then I will, Apache is running, MySQL is running. So what I will do here is come to PHP admin, like I've always done. Let me see. Okay, so there is a database there that we've been using before now, which is TechHaven My App. So let's go to TechHaven My App. So we can use this. Let me see. There are users there. Because it's an existing, so we have some users right here. So what I will do is I will just connect it to it. So now the name will be, database will be TechHaven. So I will get that. And in my env, I will put it. So it's going to listen because on the same laptop, the same system, it's going to listen on the host, local host, and listen on the default database port. Okay, and my username there is still root, no password requested. You can see I didn't have to log in when I need to access that. So what we do is now try to call this endpoint. When you try to access this endpoint will send the request here and then get the resource and return the response. Let's see how this works. So we'll come to our right here, and then we'll say users. Okay, and then we send this. Okay, so this is saying successful, but not giving us any data. Let's see what happened. So let's be sure that this is actually calling, because it's saying successful, but not giving us any data. Then it means there is a problem somewhere. Okay. So let's see what is going on. Let's see if we say this is user gets user successful. User is successful. And then we send this. Okay, that is sending something, but it's not returning what we expect to see. So let's just return our data, and let's forget about because by default, whatever you send is going to be, if you don't pass the HTTP code, it's going to be 200 by default. So what we can do is we'll do it this way. Say message. Let's take one after the other before, but it doesn't seem like we are going to do that anymore. So can just say 200, it was 200, message this, and then data. So we can just be using this this structure. Okay, we're using this structure. So and we'll make our request again. Yeah, so can you see the structure that we are getting now? So we are getting an object. Okay, this is an object with curly braces. Within that object, we have our status, like we passed there 200, which will always be in HTTP status code. We have the message get user is successful, and we have our data being passed right here. So this is actually the format of. I just wanted to first show us that, then we can now come here. But since it's not being accepted, it's okay to just always use this straight up. So always structure this thing in so that all the resource that you are going to create or the routes you are going to create will have the same structure. Okay. So we have status, we have message, and we have our data. Whatever data we are returning will be assigned to the data property here. Okay. So now that we have that working, if we want to do a post request to save data, so we can do that and just say route. Okay, and just say route post user. In this case, we post user. So we can leave out the preceding slash. It doesn't make any difference. So we still accept it. So in this case, we are passing our user controller and saying class. So we have a method. We need to create a method for it, and that method, let's say, is store. It's called store. Okay. What we want to do is, so it does not exist. So we have to create it. So let me just copy this. but I really want us to be fast and not waste time on mess with things. So we have store, right? So we are going to pass our request. So we need to bring in our request. Is either we use our request directly here or we make a request. Remember that we've talked about request validation. So you can make requests. Okay. So, but for now, let's do this. If we have time, we can touch that again. I know we've done it before. So, but then you can do this. And so whatever you are passing will come straight up into this variable. Okay. So if you get this, it is advisable, please always validate your input. Don't just send it to the database. If you do that, then you are opening yourself to security vulnerabilities. All right. Don't just always validate. What are you expecting? That's what it means to validate. I'm expecting a string. I'm expecting a number. Validate it. How long is a string? So that someone cannot not just copy some very lengthy number values and send it to your database. And because you are not validating, just overload your database. There are several other serious attacks that you can open yourself to if you don't validate your request. So please always validate your request. We've talked about that. You can look at the previous videos on how to do, and I will drop a link as well to articles that talks about request validation. Yeah. So now what we want to do is save the data coming from here. So let's first see what do we have. We have name, we have email, we have password. Okay. So what we are expecting, from that request, we are expecting name. Okay, so we are expecting name. I think what we should just do is let's just create a request that validates so that will make things quicker and easier for us. Yeah, so we want to do PHP some make request, right? And then we want to say user, create user request. Create user request. Because I put space here, there will be an error. I mean, create user request. So now we can go to HTTP request, and then we'll see this here. So now let's begin to think, what do we want to get? We want to get name. And what would that name be? It will be required because we cannot create a user record without having it. Then what do we have a maximum or something like that? So we can say, what are we expecting? We're expecting string here. So we want to say max should be 100. Like once your name is more than 100 characters, I bet just don't come to our system. That's what that means. So minimum, once your name is below 2 characters, don't bother coming. They're not needed. So what else do we have there? We have the email, right? So you want to say that this should always be required. And then this should be an email, right? Because that rule exists, right? And to put it like that, you are telling them that the type that you are sending, so it will attempt to validate it using the structured email. It must have @ it must have .com or .something. So yeah, if you want to add marks or you want to check, if you also want to check for whether it is unique or it is in the database already or something like that, you can as well add that. I think you can use unique, and then you say users, you pass the table name, then what field are we checking? So what you are saying here is check for unique email fields in your database. This email must be unique, so that what the name of this table is what? Users. And that's why we are passing that. Can you see? Users. Okay. So you are saying that it should check inside the users table, the email field, and check if what is being passed is not unique, which means if it already exists, then it should throw an error. That's what this rule means. Okay. So that, and what else are you expecting again? Password. Yeah, it has to be required. Let's just leave it like that for now. Then you now, then we'll type in our request here as create user request. Okay. So now, what you are saying, if you say validated, you are saying that this request must have been validated for me to even be thinking of getting it. Must have been validated, so it should get the validated ones. It should get the validated ones. Okay. So what will be passed here will be an array of validated inputs. If you say all, then you are saying get all, whether validated or not, get all. Then it will be an array. And you say get all the input, and the return is array. Okay. So, but I want the validated ones, which will also be a mixed. In this case, to be a mixed, it will be an array, but it will always be an array, right? So, what this takes, what the user will take to create user, it will be a create method. We are using a create method on the model. Okay. So, and what that method takes is an array. So, if you are passing validated here, you are correct. Okay. So you are saying create the users using the stuff that you are entered. So what you want to send back to them will be a status code 200 message. What do you want to say? User created. User created successfully, something like that. And then you want to probably, if you think you should return the response, probably it's part of what you want to do for them to have access to some of to the newly created user details. Then you can send it. If you don't think it's necessary, please don't do anything that is not necessary, because this will just create one user, and that's why I'm using user and not users. Okay, so when I save this, make sure that my route has been probably created is a post request, and then what is the request that I'm expecting? Name, email, password. So if I come here now and I create a different request, in this case it's going to be post, and then I put HTTP 1 to 7 like this, and then I remove the S from there. It's going to be create user. And here, because I want to send a JSON request, so I come here, the body, right? And I click on raw and change, make sure that I'm selecting JSON here. Okay, then you come here with an object, the details you want to send, you're sending name, and you pass the name. I want to send, let me check someone's name here in the call. Yeah, I want to create an account for Oluwatosin Bolade. So I'll just come here and say Oluwatosin Bolade, comma, then get an email and say o.bolade @gmail.com. Okay, then say your password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, for example, right? So with this, I can successfully make a request. Yeah, so it might be important to, although this might be automatically available, I just wanted to be sure. If you want to check, you might want to click on that idiom to be sure that you are sending content type application/JSON. Okay, that's what I wanted to enter, but I just had to come and check first instead of having to enter it. So it must be a content type of application/JSON value. Okay, so by default, that's what Postman will give you anyways. So don't need to worry. Then you can make this request, and let's see how many data do we have here right now. Got 3. So when we do this, we're expecting that to work. We are sending that now. The request is going, and then boom, saying forbidden. Forbidden. Yeah, it's going to be saying forbidden because we did not allow it here. So you have to authorize it here. Okay. So come back here and then send it. So you're going to eat this request, validate it, send it, make sure that it injects it into the user controller, create it, and return the response. So can you see? So it's returning the 200 response now. User created successfully. And this is what the front end will be getting. And so they will now be able to use it in their front end. So when you access a web application that has front end separately and the back end separately, when you probably create an account and you click the button, create an account, that's what we do. Send the request to the back end, right? The back end will send it and send the response, then they will use it and display it to you, the user. So you just see user created successfully, and then it takes you to login or something like that. So yeah, that is working. Okay, that's working well. So we want to be able to update it. So we should be able to update our details by creating an update method. After logging in, you want to be able to update your details. So let's say we are creating a new request now. I'm saying you called update request user request. Okay. So what do there? Okay, let me just create a new request. I don't intend to waste time. So I'll create another one and say update request as a new request file. And so I'm going to bring that here. So I'm going to say update user request. Then I say request. Okay, so now I'm going to validate it just the way I did for that. Let me just copy what I have here already so that I don't waste time on that. Yeah, so let's go into this. Make sure that it is true. And then let's make sure that we have those things here. But in this case, we want to be sure that, yeah, so we want to remove this because the data must exist for us to be able to update it. So we want to remove that from it and then maintain other things. But then if you are allowing them to update the password, they must be logged in. Okay, for them to be able to update this, they must be logged in. Okay, so we will still do that. So let's quickly get this done. So we are getting the validated data here, and we are trying to update it. So we'll say user, and say user is equals to. So what we can do, there are different ways to do this. Okay, they are going to be passing something. They must be passing something at least. Let's look at what we did here. And you see that it has an ID. So they must be passing this ID to be able to point to the resource they want to update. Okay, either they pass the ID or they pass the email. But usually it's often the ID. Either you use the ID like this or you use a UID. That might be a little bit above this class, so we don't want to delve into that. So we are going to make sure that we are collecting the ID here, or that we collect the ID here, or collect, but I don't want to confuse you. If there is time, I can do another way because there are different ways of achieving the same thing in programming. Okay, so I will just do the very basic one now. If there's time, then I can take us a little higher and show us how we can just get the resource from the route and we're passing the user directly instead of having to pass the ID. But for now, let's get the ID. So you get the ID, and after validating, let's say we're saying validate the request. That's our process, right? And then you are saying get the user. Get the user. And here you are finding the user by saying user find. Finding by that ID. You want to first find that user. And then you want to say if user, that is if that user exists. Okay. If user, this if user is going to check if it is null, because if this thing does not exist, it's either going to return a false or a null. And those will also always be false and null will be resolved as Boolean, right? So that's what this is saying. Okay, so if it does not exist, it will return either false or null. So if you say if user, if not user rather, sorry, if not user, okay, you want to say return an error if no user. If no user with that ID exists, that's what it means. So you can always get that. So you are returning the response this time, but this time your response is not going to be. So you are using the same thing, okay? But this time it's not going to be 200. You probably want to return a 400, right? So instead of passing it directly, you can use passing the numbers directly. You can use HTTP response and say response, dot HTTP accepted, HTTP okay. Let's say HTTP that's called okay. So you place your this is just a constant as you give this is 200. So there are different types of response code there in this static content. Okay, so you can just use that so that you don't have 200, 300, 400 everywhere. Okay, so you can do this. So in this case, it's not going to be 200. It's going to be like 400. So it might be HTTP. When you see, once you type HTTP, you see different options are available. So if you start checking, you'll see the number here. So let's say 400 is going to be bad request. So HTTP bad request. Okay, so you are saying user does not. That ID does not exist. We want to do that and then make this null. So you can see that I'm using the same structure, right? Same structure of objects, but I'm not passing any data. And I'm giving them 400 response. So that's how that will work. But then, if you use return response here, if it enters into this block, this if block, then it's going to terminate this method and return the response. So it won't run any other thing that comes after. But if it's not entering here, if it doesn't enter here, then it will make it through this line. So I'm going to continue here and say update the user details. And then I'll say user is equal to user. In this case, I will use update. I'll use update. And this update takes arrays, different arrays. So you can pass the array, your object, and then no, we shouldn't do it like this because we've already found it. So let's use this method, forgetting that we found it. So we have our user here because it's found. So we'll just say user, what are we passing? I think this is better. So we'll use name here. So we have name in here. We have name, email, password. Right, so we have our name. So we want to change it to whatever they send. What they send will be here. So and use validated. So we say validated, because it's an array, we're going to call it this way, name, and then we'll say user, so we say email, email, okay, and then we say user password, whatever they send as password, you want to be sure, right? But then we don't save password directly, so you are going to use hash, right? You are going to use hash make, and so you are going to pass your password inside it and say, okay, so this is what you do. All right, so let me import it because it doesn't exist. So it's going to be this support facade. So that's the facade method for you to use when you are creating the password. Okay, so this is going to encrypt it and hash it basically, because there's a difference between encryption and hashing. Okay, so hash it. And the difference, just to tell you, the difference is that hashing is one-way encryption. Encryption, when you encrypt, you'll be able to decrypt as two ways. Hashing will encrypt it once, and you won't be able to decrypt it. So that's what that means. And once you are done with this, you are certain that everything is fine. So what you do is you use user save, right? So this is where you save it. Here you were just updating the properties. Now that you have updated it, you will save it. Okay. If you don't do this, it will just update it there. If you not update it in the DB. All right, then you return your response, and you are good to go. You're good to now pass your objects as you have been doing. And so you're passing your object, okay, and everything is fine with you. That's your update. So you can see the steps that I sent. Steps. So here you are returning your response. You need to put that too. See. So if I save it now and I come to my updates, this is this. Let's use our updates. Let's pick our updates. So I'll be going off soon, so I need to pick up the charger. So let's test this first before I pick up the power pack, the charger. So we are, yes, because we are updating, we should use put. Okay, so let me come here and set our route, because we not set the route even. So we'll call this, and then instead of post, we are going to use put. Okay, we're going to use put. So yeah, and we are going to use our method, which is going to be the update. Okay, so now and then this route is not correct, so we are going to be passing our ID, so we must do something like this. Sorry, I think, yeah, it should be this, like this, right? So let's see, all things being equal, then that will send the ID to here, and because we are capturing that ID here as ID, user ID, or let's just change it to user ID. And so we are using user ID. Okay, so we come back here and make sure that we are fetching user ID, right? So you do come back here, your route is ready, so it will be user/4, because this is what we are trying to update. We're trying to update this guy's name for the CS details. Okay, so we'll say and so we now come to body raw JSON, and so we create an object that we want to pass. We just copy what we have here, and then copy this guy, come over here, then change whatever you want to change. Maybe you want to change the name to Watosin Bolade Bolagadi. Watosin Bolagadi. maybe that's the right. Now you want to say what to sense, Bolagade, and then you want to say only dot. Bolagade is your email. If you are changing that and you want to change your password to ABC 345, right? So, oh sorry, so if you send this, this should return the response for you. So let's check it out. 404 not found. Let me see. Am I doing something wrong here? What else am I doing? Check. So yeah, you're getting this. Oh, please, look, please excuse me. Let me get. Yeah. So. Yeah. Let's test. We're about testing. So can we see that it has changed the details? So if you go to the database to check, you will see that now the name would have changed. Can you see Wato since Bolagade? It would have changed from what it was to the new details that we put in there. So let's quickly create delete. Okay. Don't post. So if we get it now, it's going to be a different. When we got it before, it was o.bolagade and Bolagade. If I send it again now, it's going to fetch. Oh, I'm creating a new. Oh, sorry. I used this. So then it means we will now have more data here. One for that one for you. Yeah, so that's what that means. I wanted to use the get request. So if I do get, instead of just showing me this, we should now have like 5 details. And you see, so we have 5 objects now. So this is what the front end will be working with. Okay. So let's click do delete to be able to delete resources. So let's come back here. Now our route. I'm going to add a delete. So yeah, so because you need to pass the user ID of what you want to delete, of the user you want to delete. Okay. So then you come here and then so you're saying destroy. Let's just use destroy. Okay. So we are going to say user class, so it doesn't exist. We'll go there and create it. Okay, when you do this, then you pass your destroy method. Then you make sure that you are getting the user ID, okay, at least. I don't need the request because you don't need anybody or anything. You don't need request body because you're not using the request body, you're only getting the user that is passed. So you don't need that. All right. So you are getting the user ID that you pass in here, and then you are making sure you are using delete method. So these are the HTTP web methods. You can see that's what I'm using to also make the request. Okay. So From here, and then you just say user is equals to user column, then you can say delete. Delete, and then you pass your. You can also say destroy. There's that. There's destroy as well. Okay, there's destroy. There's also delete. So let's use that. Anyone. So when you are done, and pass your. There's nothing to pass really. You shouldn't be passing the data that you have destroyed already. Okay, so we just make our data null. Okay, we just make our data null. Or you might want to check if the user exists. If you want to do that, then you can replicate what we did here to get the user and check if the user exists. The user does not. We want to return a response. But you know, first check that is if you feel like doing that, but I don't think you really need to do that. Let's just do that. And then we save, come here, we create a new request, and then pass this. We want to delete the last record that we entered, which is, let's delete this 4. Okay, and then we make sure that the method is delete. Okay, and we send the request. All things being equal, we should have a successful 200 response. Okay, can you see user because we didn't change this, user deleted successfully. So let's come here and check DB that user. This user must have gone. Can you see that user has gone? User has gone. So that is that. Let's pass a wrong. You pass a wrong. So I'm passing 40 now, of which there's no user with the ID 40. So if I send this will not work. User with that ID does not exist, right? So I think we didn't pass the. So if we had said 400, instead of saying 400, let's just pass this guy. Then run it again. And you see, so the state of the response now is 100 bad request. Okay, so that is exactly how to create what is it called? APIs. So when they say you as a backend person, please, we need to develop some APIs to do something to get records, to delete records. So you know how to do that already. So you can create as many methods as possible, create your controllers, create your models, create the table, do your migration, and make sure that you structure your code well. Okay. By the time you should continue to learn more. You see that you have what we call the service layer. Instead of implementing all your logics in here, you can have a folder called service in maybe your GPP or your app, and then you have your services. And then you call those stuff here. So that's a little bit above this class. Okay, so do some more research of your own and see how you can import classes here. So, but then I might want to show us how to use resources. If you can create a resource, instead of passing, for example, now you are passing all the details here. So you might want to create a resource where you just direct the response to that resource. And in that resource, you can select the exact data you want to return. instead of sending everything. So to do that, you use your artisan command, basically artisan. Doesn't matter though, but if you artisan make resource, so the resource we want to make, now would be user resource. So anytime we need to return user, because we don't want to display all the details there. We don't want to display name, created at, all of those things. We don't want them displayed. So you might just want to display the name and the email alone. So that's what you're specifying your resource. Okay. So if you do make resource, that resource, and then you click create. So to use it, let me see. Okay. Make, that was wrong. Resource, yeah, that's the correct word. Yeah, cool. So now if you come here under HTTP, you see resources. Now you can send your response to that. So instead of doing it this way, you can just call your resource here. Say resource, user resource. You import it. The moment I clicked on that, it will import it here. And you see it has imported it. So I won't need to do that myself. So then I can say it should be new. So I should be creating a new user resource. We're creating a new user resource and then passing the, so this is like instantiating a new object. Okay, and then I'm passing the user inside it. So this will automatically get the user's model and return it. So here it's going to be returning everything, but I don't want to return everything. So I can just, let me just comment this. Oh, I delete it, so, and then I'm going to be sending an array of data, and then I just want it to have name is equal to this. So you use this to call the class itself, because the class itself has received that class, that user object. So it's going to make this property available, which is I'm going to make this property available, which is name. Sorry. Okay. So, and then I can say email. Then I say this email. So let's assume this is just what I want. Anytime I want to return anything about users, this is what I want them to say. I don't want them seeing these extra details. The reason why it's not even displaying password is because by default, a security measure has been put in place inside the model where it will not display the password just to maintain the security. If I had removed this, the password string and everything will have gone with the response. But because this has been put here, the attributes that show the hidden for serialization. So it will not serialize it and return it anytime, anyhow. So it's not going to send the member token, it's not going to send password. And all of these two are also in our database. If you say, see, we have password, we have a member token. We include them because they are these ones are here. But for your resource, you won't be able to do it in case you have a large table that has many columns. So it's just better you set a resource, specify the ones you want to return. When you do that and you pass your resource in here, so anywhere you want to return user, this is what you'll be passing. So anywhere you want to return user, this is for update, this is store. We are returning user here as well. So don't just pass data, pass the resource and pass the model inside it. So let's go and create one and see what happens. So when we try to create, let me look for someone else's name now, okay? And so let me create Fit Ashiedu. Fit Ashiedu, and So let me come here. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name well. It's just for the purpose of this testing. What am I doing? For God's sake. Faith. And then I say faith. Say a.faith@gmail.com. and I return the same password. So if I send this, I'm not expecting all of these details here. Okay. So if I say send, create that resource. I'm going to create it, return the response, and use that resource to return the response. So you can see it's just returning the only properties or fields that I specified in the resource. This is a proper way of doing things. Okay. So now you know how to use. So you can use that for any model. And if you create a post model, you have a post table, then you should have a post resource where you specify what you want to return. Okay, that is appropriate. Yeah, so what else? Any question from anyone? Because we've been able to treat. So now I expect that you can create APIs. So if we quickly look at the front end before we stop this and talk about our project, let's see if we can spend like 5 minutes on the front end and see what's up with it. Wasn't working. Sorry, I was thinking of. Yeah, this one. This is it. Okay. So yeah, let's see. I want us to be able to fetch the data. So if we do, instead of doing it this way, can we just do await? Let's do await. Okay. And then let's await the response. And we say something like const data is equal to this await, and we make sure that we are not passing these guys. Okay, then we might need some try catch. So but then it's complaining here await expression can only allow with the same function at the top level out. So let's use that promise. Let's that enable method. So that we don't start entering into the front end. So we just want to return this data, console log it, and we do not want to consider log hello world. So this is exactly this how the front end guys will try to access your API. So we just wanted to show, yeah, so this is working. It's not refreshing now. It's not refreshing. It's showing us what we are doing. So I guess that when this is returned, so this is working. This is working well, right? So when this is returned, then it's attempting to getting the JSON response here, right? And so it's passing that in here, and we are using it here. Okay, so this is supposed to work. In at it, it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work. Return on this one. Okay, so if we pass our stuff here, this hello world, so we are saying this guy should take What should we use? Should we do something like this one? Paths, something like this, and then please, I just want you to have that. Once we try this now and it's not working, we'll not bother ourselves because we are not doing front-end. But let's just see if it will work. Name, ID, right? And then we are sending this, so we want to make sure that we are able to console log this. We want to make sure that that is going to work. Let's see. So yeah, valid JSON. Okay, so let's not bother our head. Let's not bother our head. Let's just pass. Okay. Cannot set traffic of null. So why is it null? Why are we talking about null here? So by ID results, yes, inner text is also welcome. So okay. Okay, inner text. So we just use something else. Let's use this. Let's use div. Div. Yeah, and so let's div the result. Then let's this be show the response here. Good. And then let this show response here change it. So we are going to use inner HTML. This do this show response here. Welcome. So this is working. This is working, right? This is working here. Yeah, that is working. And so let's see why this is not working if there is an error somewhere. But before you do that, first log it. Let's see if we have that. And then, okay, so let's see what we have. That we have a hello world, then this and that. So come here now. Say, so it still is refreshing. My hands off now. So let's see. So but I believe we're not able to make that work. Front end things. If we look more into it, we'll be able to get anyways. But then that's not our focus, right? We want to make sure that we understand API and then we see how it works in real life. If we're able to make that work, what will happen is when we click on that button, then to make a request to whatever we have here, and we'll be able to see that in the network tab here. Be able to see the responses we are getting here in the network tab there. And so all those API endpoints that we're calling, we would have been able to get them here and use them on the front end. That is exactly how this whole web thing works, using RESTful API. The other ones, there is SOAP API, and other few ones too. So read more to understand how these things work. Try to find out, ask questions. So that will be all. I hope you've been able to gain in the whole the course of this whole program. Do we have anyone with any question, whether relating to what we have done today or what you've learned in the past? Any question from anyone? Any question? So if no question, please, I'll appreciate if you can just throw an emoji, maybe thumbs up, show that you don't have any question, and so I can tell that I have people listening to me. Yeah, please go ahead, Abby.
Yeah, thank you very much so far for the classes. starting
Yeah.
from day one to this day. Yeah, the question I want to ask is outside of the box. So
Yeah.
in case we see a role, because there are some role that I have been seeing, maybe junior Laravel role
Yeah.
for backend.
Yeah.
So in case we apply for it, maybe we are being called for maybe for interview or the likes. In case we need any help, we kind of like reach out to you, the tutors, our mentor. So I don't know if you will be available for that, or maybe we are working on maybe we are working on maybe personal projects. Maybe we are kind of like we have like a situation we are facing. Maybe you will be kind of like available. I don't know
Yeah.
if
So I think I will leave that to the admin to respond. We are ever ready, but it depends on how the program is structured. If that is still part of the plan, I mean, why not? So I will leave that to Imole to respond.
Okay, thank you, Adebayo. If I get the question right, is mostly if we can continue to support you if you have questions or you need support concerning applying for roles and things like that. Is that correct?
yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, we this cohort, that WhatsApp group that we have is still gonna be there. What I would ask us all to do is to not go silent because of we're not meeting every Sunday. Adebayo and Shegun are very much on ground to help. If you have questions and things like that. Also, if you notice some of those things, if we see any opportunities, we always drop in the and that we are going to continue to do. We also would, as I mean, for all of you who have gone through this, I'm hoping that maybe we could have like some sort of project, but if not, regardless, you would get even certificates for this, just for something to physically mark or virtually mark that you've gone through such a program. So we would have that shared with you all. What I would say is that please don't go silent in that group, like I said earlier. If you have questions, please drop it. Also, if you are preparing for an interview and you need someone to prep you with or to prep with you or to just look at your code, Adebayo is here. Shegun is also here as well. So it's a continuous thing. Again, it's a mentorship beyond the training itself. So feel free to ask questions. Don't be a stranger. And I think that's probably the word there that I was looking for. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I think if there's any other question, please can we bring it up? There's no. But I don't know if you have talked about the project before, Imole.
No, I haven't. I was Shegun's a little bit under the weather today. Yeah, if I noticed that I've not heard from him since Monday, so I called him like about an hour ago, and I realized he's seriously ill. He's having malaria.
My God. And I wanted to call him during the week, but
yeah. Feel free to drop him a message or something later. But I think that's why we couldn't communicate the project to everyone on this call. But that doesn't spoil things. We can always have the project still handed out to everyone. Again, like I said, the program may have ended today, but the mentorship continues. And so if you so by the time you Adebayo and Shegun put together the projects, just drop it in a group for folks to work on. Again, everyone on the call, feel free to challenge yourself to do those projects as they drop them, and within the deadline that they give. It will help you to also sort of start practicing the things that you've learned. So let's do that project. Also, you all get a certificate for this as well. Yeah. Over to you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Imole. So I was going to say that we should not be scared. There are sometimes that you see challenges that are probably you attend an interview and then they throw you some questions or give you a project to do, or even the kind of peer programming thing, see it as a challenge that will push you forward and add to your experience. Okay, don't be scared. Thankfully, he has just said that we are still there for you guys. There's a lot more to learn. That is not to scare you. That is just to get you ready, aware of how the whole career path is. You get there's a lot more to learn. So keep growing, keep learning new things, ask questions. When you attend an interview, see it as an opportunity to grow. Get what they are saying, ask them questions if you can. Okay? And lay your hands on projects, please. Do your own projects. Push it to GitHub. Now that you know how to use GitHub, push it to GitHub. Do these things. Just do them. Try them. Watch these videos. Watch the articles, and ask questions. Okay? There are some things that we could not touch, but I'm telling you, what we have taught you is enough for you to get a job, to get a junior role or internship role, because that's where to start from. Okay? Yeah. So get that, and then move on from there. So if there's any other question, we are still here. I mean, we are here till 5 Nigerian time. So if you have any other question, ask me. But from my end, I think that will be all for today. This class, I hand over to the admin.
Thank you, Adebayo. Guys, for those of you who started from like week 1 to week 8 and you are attending every single Sunday, big ups to you, kudos to you. I know it's not easy. For several reasons, a lot of people couldn't, make it some days. I know that it's not easy. Programming essentially can be very, very difficult at the beginning. And for you all to stick through it till this day, I give you, a lot of kudos. And it doesn't end here, guys.
Yeah.
If you decided you saw that ad and you're like, oh, I'm gonna, register to be a part of this, there's a reason why you've gotten this far, guys. Don't be discouraged in any way. You are definitely gonna face a lot of challenges, and I know Adebayo have told you this. You're gonna see a lot of them. But if there's any career path, regardless of what you do currently today, if there's any career path that anyone should probably be in right now, it's software engineering. There is so many upsides and so little downsides for to it. And like I said at the beginning, I think in the hierarchy of software engineering, well, apart from like AI being a thing, machine learning engineers being a thing nowadays, they are essentially backend engineers too. But in the hierarchy of backend software engineering, backend is like on top, on that food chain essentially. So you want to be you've started the right way. You've make the right decision, and so please see it through. Don't give up. Like Oluwatosin was asking whether there will be real-time support. Real-time, I may not be able to promise, but because real-time means that you need the support now. You get it now. Of course, everybody will be busy, right? But when you need support, you will get it. That's the question. That's the thing that we can say to you. When you have specific questions or you're working on a project, you need someone to help you review it. Just boss Shegun or Adebayo. They will make time. First case, they will tell you to book some time with them and things like that. And you can always show them your work. This is how things actually grow and people become things. And like Adebayo said, you don't know, this is enough for you to actually get a role as a junior backend engineer with PHP Laravel. So please do not give up. Well done, guys, and congrats for seeing this through. Any other questions, guys? Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you very much, guys. And yeah, you would all get your certificate from us soon, and also the project so that you work on that and you practice with it, guys. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you all for your time. And have a lovely week ahead. Bye.
Bye.
Well,